Hi everybody, this is Mike Kelly from AnimatorsForum.com, and what I'm going to show you today is one of the new features of Animator Studio version 9 Pro. It's only available in the Pro version, which is reason alone for you to run out and upgrade to Pro if you don't already own Pro. And this feature alone is reason to own 9, even if you have been on the fence about upgrading in the past. Let's put it this way: if you're an animator and you have any characters in your animation, and any of your characters have any arms or legs, you're going to want this upgrade. However, if that doesn't apply to you, then you don't need to worry about it. But I'm going to show you, and you're going to see a lot of videos about all the wonderful new features, and there are a lot of things about 9 that are worth having. To my mind, this is the most important feature of 9, and I'm going to show it to you. It's called Smart Bones. What you're going to see about Smart Bones is that it can do a lot more than what I'm going to show you. It can do some spectacular things, and people far cleverer than I am are doing things with that, and you're going to see those videos. You're also going to see the other end of it, people doing a lot of bulging arms. And there's a middle ground in there, which is namely how to use it in every day-to-day sort of joints, arms, legs, and bodies. And what I want to show you is the difference it makes. And I think once you see this difference, you'll realize that you can't do without it. So here we have on the screen, let me get to this, focus here. We have one of my characters, twice. He's done as the original model, the old version. When I say old version, he actually was, he went through a lot of iterations. Oh, and I should note parenthetically that I'm not the greatest artist in the world, and I may not even be close to the best rigger in the world. So whatever you see here, if it's even halfway decent, you're going to be able to do it 10 times better. So this should show you that if I can do it, you'll do it better. So I'm not going to say this is the absolute best work in the world, nor is this the best way to rig things, but this should show you the differences dramatically between the two versions. So here we have the original version. Like I said, he's gone through a lot of different versions. I think we were up to version 13 on him in different rigs. And not all about to do with rigging arms and legs. A lot of it was parts in his body, like the facial features. But certainly a lot of it was trying to get the perfect rig. In this particular version, if we open this up and explore it, you'll see that he has a lot of layers. We're using patch layers here to attempt to overcome the problem, which we always have, of joint. And so it uses a ton of layers in order to get that. That's one of the main disadvantages of patch layers, is that you need a lot of patch layers, not only to put patches on, but sometimes to take them off so they don't interfere with other things, as you'll see sooner. So that's how he looks now. The new version, using Smart Bones, you can see that here we have a lot fewer layers. As a matter of fact, I think there's 11 layers here. And if we go back to this version, we have a lot. I don't know, I think there's 20 more, 22, 23. But anyway, there's a lot of layers here. So a lot more layers, a lot more complicated to get the exact same rig. But anyway, we're going to go through and see how this works. So if I go to Bones of the original, this is the original version, and you'll see both of them move at the same time because I'm doing the same things in both of them. So we're going to just look at the arm motion to begin with. So if I zoom in here and we move this, you'll see that as the arms rotate, you'll see how the two versions behave. And the first thing you'll notice is, I hope you'll notice, is that actually, let me go back here and do this. Let me go back and do this first. Click on this. So we don't get the bones in the picture. You don't really need to see the bones. You can see as this rotates that you have a much cleaner line here. You have this line going through here, which I'm going to see all the mail messages I have. Okay. the you have this nice line that sets up here that holds in here, whereas this, because of the patch layer, making this patch here isn't nearly as clean. And as we go out, you can see that that line can come and go as you want. You'll also see that as we go up here, that the joins here at the top here join this. There's a little bump here. This join is not perfect. Once again, if I altered this in a better rig, it would look better here, but then it wouldn't look as good in other positions. So those are the trade-offs I had to make in the past. Excuse me, I'm recovering from a cold here, about trying to make the perfect rig. Also, I should note too that when you're animating these things, you can fix all of these things by moving the verts around. In other words, if you move the arm up here and you see this little bump here, to get it to look nice and straight like this, you can just move the verts. We call them points in Anime Studio. I'm coming from a 3D background, we call them verts, but you can move the points around and smooth out and change the curvature there, and then it would look just like this. But this is all done automatically. SmartBones automatically handles that moving of those points and the curvature, so I don't have to think about it every time I move his arm up in the air to move the points out around there, and that's really the beauty of it. So anything you can do by moving points and curvatures on your own, you can program automatically into SmartBones. So anyway, so that's that smooth movement there, and I think you can see as his arm finally extends to the full range of the motion, then we have this nice smooth join in here, and this nice, which we do not have the same sort of smoothness here. If we zoom in, you'll see that there's this bump here, and there's a smoothness here. And anything that isn't perfectly smooth, there might be a little tiny bump here. It once again is due to my not greatness in rigging, or if I just don't care. Sometimes I don't care if there's a tiny little imperfection that won't get seen. This would get seen on screen. This little tiny little bump wouldn't. So those are the arms, the arm shoulder motion, I should say. And now we're going to go to the classic, that's the arm in reverse motion. I just want you to show it goes both directions, so you can do the reverse motions. And once again, you have a little bit of crap here that we don't have a nice smooth line there. And move up there, and as we move up, see, you get this here. You don't get that. You get a nice even join there. So that's that. So anyway, now we come back down to the regular thing. Now we're going to see a forearm bending, which is the bicep. And you can see as the biceps bend, you can see I do a slight thickening here. I don't do this craziness, and people are going to get into these bulging biceps all the time. I'm not doing that, but I'm doing enough to make it look natural. So you can see a nice natural bulge there, which you can, of course, get with patch layers. So I'm doing that. Now, my arms, because I use the same arm position and on the same arm to, it's kind of cross-staging directions. In other words, if you can imagine this arm is on a level plane and I'm looking out at you, the arm might come out forward to you, and this hand position would change, and then I would have my arm like waving at you. So I don't want you to think it looks strange because of the palm position, but it's really a natural position for it to come out all the way over here, even though we can't keep our hand in that same position. I want you to see a couple things. On the patch layer side, you see if we move in here, you'll see the patch layer actually occludes the hand switch layer that I have. In order to get this not to do this, I'd have to put yet another layer, even within all these other hundreds of layers that I'd have. I have to put still another layer to unpatch that, which I never got around to doing because I was just too lazy. But it's still another problem with patch layers, that they will patch out things that are on top of them. That's the whole point of them. And so here we don't have that problem here. Obviously, we don't have that patch layer problem issue, and it's much smoother, as you see. So anyway, that's that. Next thing I do, I think, to see what we do next, remember what I programmed in here, is, do his leg. It's leg movement. Okay. So legs, if you come back here, you'll see. What you like to have in cartoons is you like to have this nice crotch. And in the new version, I have a little crotch line. Here, I don't have a crotch line. I've experimented in the past with all kinds of workarounds for this. I've never found anything that really works really well. I've had patch layers in the crotch, and sounds like a condition. Yes, I've had patch layers in my crotch, and I hope that you haven't had that too, but now there's a miracle aid for it. Anyway, I've done all kinds of things to try to get this nice crouch line. But now, with SmartBones, not only can I get it, but look how nicely that deforms on that side. Here you've got sort of this is the sort of attempt to get this little crotch line, but it isn't anywhere near as nice as this. Plus we have this little bit of business up here cutting into his leg here, into his torso there. So if you come up through here, you see that it's cutting in. So anyway, on the SmartBones side, much nicer, nice line, doesn't cut into that at all. So anyway, so that's that. So then, then the last thing I'm doing here is doing a shoulder movement. So as you can see, I'm bringing the shoulder up, and in this shoulder, the collar disappears because that's the collar is, I think a patch layer is coming over on top of that collar, and it's getting distorted in a weird way anyway. But on the other side, where I've got the ability to use SmartBones, the shoulder comes up very naturally, so that comes up much nicer, and I can control completely the deformity of that. Now I'm going to bend forward, and the first thing you're going to notice when it bends forward is that that he comes kind of disconnected from the bottom on this side, whereas on this side he actually has a bottom. You might say, well, why didn't you build this better? Well, the problem is I have to build this part of the torso for these legs to work in that old version of the rigging. And yes, I'm sure some of you that are far smarter than I am are able to do it a different way. The point is, with SmartBones, I don't have to. I can do it my way and still have it look really nice when he bends over. He's actually got a nice bubble butt. Dingle's kind of a bubble butt kind of guy. And not only can he bend forward, but even more importantly, he can bend back. And you notice as he bends back, this line stays really nice, whereas obviously this is a disaster. But once again, I'm able to deform these points as he moves backwards. So it's a very natural backwards bending movement there. Okay, and then the last thing with Dingle we're going to see is him bending at the waist. And actually, that was bending at the upper torso. So as he leans forward here, you'll watch this line here, this tummy waistline or breast line. And as he bends forward on the older version, it gets distorted pretty badly. Once again, these are the kinds of things that you can fiddle around till the end of doomsday with bone strength and trying to adjust. You could add extra bones. You can do all kinds, or you can use SmartBones, which handle all that for you automatically. So anyway, so that's how well that works there. All right, now we're going to load in another file. I'm going to load in. Ernie. And Ernie, once again, we have an old version and the new version. I'm not going to go through everything with Ernie. We're just going to show you a couple of highlights. I'll show you first. Ernie's done a little differently. The original Ernie is not done with patch layers. I'm doing him now with, those of you that are familiar with them, so we can look at this rig and see if I can show you this. You see, this is that strange bone rig that does this little, I don't know if you guys have seen this before. I'm not sure who invented this, and I don't want to say because I don't want to give the wrong credit to the wrong people, but it certainly wasn't me. And it's a very clever rig. As this bone bends, these control bones control this other point, which separate out and get you actually pretty close to getting a good joint. And until SmartBones, this was probably as good as it got in terms of being able to do an actual joint that moved. Unlike patch layers, which can only rotate around, this actually can give you some bicep bending, as you'll see in a moment. But you'll also see the detriment of it. And you also see how many more layers. This one has a lot of layers. This one has, I don't know, 15, 20 layers. And then the new version, this has even fewer layers. It only has 9 layers. Very, very compact and constructed. So much cleaner to look at this version if you have to work on it too. So now we'll move forward. And the first thing we'll do is the bulging biceps. And you'll notice that on the old version, even on the old version, the arm bulges a little bit on that, which is kind of nice. And that's one reason I liked it better than patch layers, is that the arm kind of moved a little more organically. But with SmartBones, as you can see, I can make that arm move any way I want, have it bulge out. And some of you might say, well, you know, I kind of prefer this smoothness here. I don't like seeing that crease. Well, then you can do whatever you want. The nice thing about SmartBones is whatever you see on screen, in terms of a point and a curvature, you can do in a SmartBone and have it control that. So, so this is the way I like it. So, and there is arms. And now you see the problem with the old version is, as we zoom in here, is that as the crease gets too much, it collapses in on itself. And you might say, well, I can handle that with a constraint, but I actually wanted his arm to bend that far. And in the past, what would happen is if I bent it too far, I would have to go in and adjust the points manually in here, and that was a big pain in the butt. So we no longer have to do that because you can control every aspect of the angle bend with SmartBones. So don't have that anymore to worry about. And now let's come through, and here's the leg, and once again you can see the crotch. I have the, I want to keep talking about crotches in these videos, but I think you can see that the crotch is much smoother. In this particular version, I didn't even try to, because he's wearing a t-shirt, and these really aren't one piece. I wasn't trying to, unlike Dingle, who's wearing the same color on both sides, I can't necessarily get away with the same thing, but on here I can make it a much smoother bend. And it actually looks like a leg would look. This looks very odd. And yet this is the rig that I was using for all of our shows up till now, or from the most recent shows. So, and then we move the other leg, just to show you the other leg. What I like about the other leg is, you'll note, as this other leg comes up, notice his t-shirt gets pushed up by that leg. Once again, that's completely controllable in SmartBones, so pushes up that and looks really natural as that other leg would move up. And then I move his foot just to show you that here there's a, it doesn't really look as natural as the adjustment on the foot there. You can do anything you want with that. So that's that. Now I'm going to move his neck, and once again, this may expose more about what I do or don't do than I care to admit to, but I'm going to show you. The old version, as he moves his neck forward, you see it actually starts to come off. Again, this is due to the limitations. I wanted to have this line be lined up here directly, and yet I don't want to have the head below the body because I want to be on top of the body. So there's ways around that, but my way around it was just not to worry about it. So I don't get the head bend that I want. But of course, with SmartBones, I have my cake and I can eat it too. Which, by the way, the original expression was eat your cake and have it too. Obviously, if you have your cake, you ought to be able to eat it. But if you eat it first and then still have it, that's the trick. And in French, it's backwards. So eat your cake and have it too. So in this particular case, I can have exactly what I want and get that beautiful neck bend that way. And so that's Ernie. So the last thing I want to show you real quick is, just so we can get off the, onto the distaff side, is to show you Amy. And I'm going to only show you two things about Amy. Female characters have some unique problems, not the least of which is their female characteristics. So we have, I have Amy bend forward, and a female, obviously, when they bend, it's always delightful to us men, because various things happen here. And I don't want to try to sound too sexist. As Amy bends forward, you might want to pay attention to her cleavage here. This cleavage actually gets adjusted as she's bent forward. So if you watch the cleavage, it's, you know, so in addition to, and she's also falling out of her dress on this side. So this is kind of, what do they used to call that? A costume accident or something, or an incident? I don't know what it was called, the Super Bowl. Anyway, she's a mess here. But in here, not only is she not falling out of her dress here, but she is falling out of her dress where it counts. So I think you can see how that works in a very subtle manner, and yet looks much more realistic. So that's in that respect. Now I want to show you one of the cool things I really like about this, and also now we're going to hit one of the major drawbacks. Well, major drawbacks, maybe that's too strong a word. One of the downsides of using SmartBones, and it isn't something that's a downside to keep you from using it. It's something that you need to be aware of when you are using it, so when it occurs, and it may occur to you, that you'll know how to deal with it, or at least you won't be too upset about it. And anyway, I'm going to show you this in stages here. So in the old version, if you notice, she raises her leg, and that's not natural. Obviously, a woman can't raise her leg and her skirt just stay where it was. What I would do in the old version is that I would have a skirt bone here. So you can see there's a skirt bone. So as I raise the leg, then I would adjust that skirt bone, rotate it up, but then rotation was not enough. So I would also have to kind of transform and move it up and kind of get it to sort of approximate the right position. So that was better than trying to move the points individually, but it certainly was still a pain to do. and same thing on the bottom side. You know, if I did that way, then I had to rotate that bone in the back, and sometimes the bone rotation in the back worked without having to transform it. But you can see that that's really a drag to have to do. On the new version, don't have to do that anymore. On the new version, when the bone moves forward, you notice dress moves forward. And not only does the dress move correctly, but forward up, but it also in the middle comes up higher, as it would if it were to be, you know, if you raise your leg and the material goes up there. Same thing on the other side as it raises up. And then notice how that material rises just like it would normally. And then this is really amazing. You can do both legs at the same time, and notice how the material goes up. And no, it won't go up any higher than that, folks. So those of you that are looking for something else, you can do a Google search and find other things. But so there's great. And then just to show you that it can work in reverse, it has to work in reverse because the forward or back legs can also come forward or back. That makes sense. Being redundant. I am still sick. Did I mention that? So you notice this leg, in addition to moving the back part of the dress, can also move the front part of the dress, which is how you would want it. However, and here's the got you in Smart Bones that you have to be aware of. Because this moves the front part of the dress, and this bone here also moves the front part of the dress, when two Smart Bones operate on the same verts at the same time, you get unpredictable results. And here's, as you can see, as this moves forward, look at that dress. Just goes up crazy. See? So, and this would happen if she were going to sit down, for example. She'd move both of her legs up, and the skirt would fly up there, and she'd have a wardrobe malfunction. That was it. Even in my sickened state, I remembered wardrobe malfunction. Okay, so what does that mean in terms of Smart Bones? Does it mean you can't use them? No, of course you can use them. And this is a very this is an example that you're not going to come across typically with your arms and legs. And this is an example with the arms and the legs operating on basically a third object, which in this case is the dress. There's several ways around this. One of the ways that I've gotten around this is that I have another dress, a duplicate dress I swap in, that's then correctly works on the fact that more than one Smart Bone hits it. There's also some workarounds that you'll see posted in other various places on the forum. It's not the end of the world. You can, of course, go in and just adjust these verts yourself, and Smart Bones does allow that. Just because the Smart Bones move the verts doesn't mean that you can't also move them yourself. So even though at this point in time the verts are being adjusted by Smart Bones, I can also move them too. So I could straighten things out to some degree and you know make it look. And this is, you might say, well, you're back to where you started. Well, yes, I am back to like the bad old days, but it's not terrible because, like I say, this is a condition or an occurrence or a situation that doesn't occur often, and it's a small price to pay for the enormous power of Smart Bones. But there are ways around it. So anyway, I just wanted to let you know that's Smart Bones, and basically, if you don't have them, you're going to want them. There's no other way to animate. I would never go back to any other way of doing arms and legs again. And hope to see you around the forums.